Welcome to Chapter and Concept, where we deconstruct the architecture of ideas one page at a time. Today, in our architecture series, we're going to blueprint one of the most complex and, honestly, fascinating structures on the Enneagram, the inner world of the Type 6. We're going deep into the architecture of anxiety itself. Let's just kick things off with this quote because it nails the central paradox of being a 6. Think about that for a second. The idea that anxiety, the very thing that feels like it's drowning you, is also what you believe is keeping you alive. It's a profound, exhausting way to live, and really, it's the key to understanding everything else we're about to unpack. So to really get this, we have to start at the bottom. You know, every building has a foundation, and for the Type 6, that foundation is poured with fear. Let's dig in and see what that really means. Now look at how simple this looks. It all boils down to this fundamental push and pull, the absolute terror of being rudderless, adrift with no direction, and this deep driving need to find a trustworthy anchor. This one dynamic is the blueprint for the entire personality structure of the 6. And you can see right here where they live on the Enneagram map. The 6 sits smack in the middle of the thinking center, or the head triad, the group of types that process the world through mental analysis. So you'd think they'd be the most rational, right? But here's the twist. They're often the most disconnected from their own inner guidance, which leads to this whirlpool of anxiety. They're an anchor, for sure, but an anchor that's constantly checking if the rope is going to snap. So where does all this come from? Well, it usually traces back to a childhood wound where the world just didn't feel safe or reliable. This taught the young 6 a critical, life-shaping lesson. You can't trust your own instincts. You need something or someone outside of yourself to tell you what's real and what's safe. So what gets built on top of that foundation of fear? Well, it constructs this kind of watchtower in the mind. And from this vantage point, the 6 engages in what we call mental scanning, a 24/7 surveillance mission for any and all potential threats. And this isn't just some vague worry. No, this is an active, strategic process. The mind is constantly forecasting, planning, and stress testing reality against every possible thing that could go wrong. It is an exhausting, non-stop job trying to outsmart a world you believe is fundamentally dangerous. But, you know, there's a flip side to this, and it can be a real superpower. This quote just paints the perfect picture, doesn't it? All that threat forecasting makes 6s incredibly prepared. They have already played out the disaster scenario in their minds, so if and when it actually happens, they often know exactly what to do. Okay, now this is where the architecture of the 6 gets really unique. It's the only Enneagram type that has 2 distinct, widely accepted ways of expressing its core anxiety. It's this fundamental split in how they respond to the very same fear. So on one side, you've got the phobic 6, who moves away from whatever it is they fear. They look for safety in rules, in authority, in being cautious. But on the other side, you have the counterphobic 6, who moves against fear. They charge right at the danger, adopting this rebellious, I'm not afraid of you posture. But here's the kicker. Whether they're running away from the danger or running straight towards it, both are powered by the exact same engine of anxiety. I love this cartoon because it just perfectly captures that phobic 6 mindset. It's this kind of pessimistic preparedness, you know? By always expecting the worst, they feel like they can never be caught off guard. It's a funny way of looking at what is a really deeply ingrained survival strategy. All this internal static, this constant scanning, it leads to this deep, lifelong quest. The 6 is always searching for a reliable external guidepost, a person, a belief system, a job that can give them the stability and direction they feel they lack inside. They're searching for their true north. And this is the question that haunts them. It is the central dilemma. They desperately need to trust something outside of themselves, but their own mind is expertly designed to find the flaws, the cracks, and the potential betrayals in everything and everyone. So you get this wild push and pull dynamic, right? They are drawn to authority for that feeling of security, but at the same time, they test it, they question it, they rebel against it the second it seems shaky. And what's really fascinating is that even if they take down a leader, they usually don't want the job themselves. They just want to clear the way for a truly trustworthy leader to step in. So, with an architecture built on anxiety, are they just stuck there forever? Absolutely not. The final part of our blueprint shows how this very same structure can be renovated, transformed from a prison of fear into a fortress of resilience and strength. This is the ultimate destination. Their core emotional driver, what the Enneagram calls the passion of fear, gets transformed into the virtue of courage. And let's be really clear about this. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the ability to act in spite of it. A healthy 6 is face down so many of their own inner demons that the external world starts to look a whole lot less intimidating. So, how do they get there? Well, the map for growth points them towards the healthy traits of the peaceful Type 9. The real work is about quieting that mental noise, starting to trust that their own inner voice is a reliable compass, and using their sharp mind to ground their fears in reality, instead of letting them spiral out of control. But of course, we also have to look at the other path. Under stress, a 6 moves toward the unhealthy side of Type 3. They can become frantic workaholics, trying to achieve their way to security, which only burns them out and disconnects them even more from their own inner knowing. And so we end with this question. For the Type 6, and really for any of us who wrestle with anxiety, it's a powerful way to reframe it. What if that fear isn't just a cage? What if it's the very thing that, once you understand it, can be used to build a life of incredible courage, loyalty, and strength? That brings this chapter to a close. Thank you for joining us at Chapter and Concept. Join us for the next episode as we continue building the architecture of ideas. Don't forget to subscribe to stay within the foundation.